Hello everyone and welcome back to our share in Tishu B'Halacha. We're holding today on Yud Ches Amid Aleph. We're finishing up Siman Tuf Mem Gimel. We're finishing up the last Sif in the Siman Sif Gimel. So we had spoken last week. We said, the Mechaber said a halacha here, that if you bought something using chametz, so you took a loaf of bread and you used it to buy something else that you're going to use on Pesach, and you did this after the Siman ha'Isser. So your chametz was already Asr. Now you took your loaf of bread, which is Asr b'hana, and you used it to buy wine that you're going to use on Pesach. You gave it to the guy, and you gave it to him in return for something else. So he said, you're allowed to use that item that you swapped out for the chametz on Pesach. And the Mechaber said, Mepnei shechametz einoi toifes damav, because chametz, the Isser of the chametz, does not go on the money that was switched for it. Then we had the Berurah here in Ois Katan Tezayin, and the Berurah explained that this is true even for the person who made the swap himself. So Ruvain had chametz, he swapped out his bread for something else. He's allowed to use that something else that he swapped out for the chametz on Pesach. But the Berurah said that this opinion of the Mechaber is not a davar muskim, it's not the divrei hakoil. And he brought down that there are the G'dolei HaPoskim, which we said in the Sharet Zion is referring to Rashi, Taisus, the Rosh, the Smag, the Ritva, who hold that there is an Isser for the person himself. For somebody else, whereas if Ruvain swapped out his chametz for something else, other people can use that other item on Pesach, but Ruvain himself cannot because the Chachamim made a knas. And they said, since you were over in Isser, and you had Hana from Chametz on Pesach by switching it out for something else, you yourself are not allowed to use it. And the Berurah said, V'yesh lahachmer kedas poskim elu shaloi b'makom hefsid meruba, that it makes sense to rule stringently like these poskim, and to rule that the person who made the swap himself, he cannot use the thing that he switched for the Chametz. Now we're continuing this Berurah. We're about halfway down the narrow lines of the column of the Berurah, in the middle of the line by Oid. So the Chavetz Chaim says, Oid kasvu ha'achreinim. The Achreinim also say, Da'afilu l'das ha'machmirim b'chametz l'esar ba'achalifa of l'didei gufei, even according to this more stringent opinion, who holds that when you switch out chametz, the person who made the switch, he himself, is not allowed to use the thing that he switched the chametz for. This is only true if he received the item in return for the chametz right at the time that he made the swap. So what happened is, Ruvain took his chametz on Pesach, or at least after the Siman ha'Isser, he gave it to somebody, and right away he received something else in return that he wants to use on Pesach. In that case, that's when the more stringent opinion says that he himself is not allowed to derive benefit from what he received in exchange for the chametz. Aval, however, if that's not the way the transaction worked, if what happened was that he gave the chametz, and the item that he received in exchange for the chametz, he only received at a later time, so there was a time delay, he gave the chametz, and then 2 days later, he was given something else in exchange for the chametz, then l'kulayalma mutter af lididei. Then even these Gedolei HaPoskim, who held that there is an Isser on the person himself who makes the exchange, not in this case. If there was a delay, if he gave the chametz and then later received something in exchange, even the more stringent Poskim would hold that in that case he's allowed to use what he received in exchange. Why? Because in such a case where Ruvain gives the chametz to the guy, now the guy accepts the chametz and he takes it into his rishus. Now that chametz is in his property. The non-Jew is kaina. He acquires the chametz immediately as soon as he takes it into his rishus, into his possession. And the money that the Yid receives, or the other item that the Yid receives in exchange for the chametz, when he receives it later on, Hareihem kematana ba'alma. We look at what he receives in exchange for the chametz as being a gift. We no longer look at it as being a swap for the chametz. If it's a transaction where the Yid gives the chametz to the non-Jew and immediately the non-Jew gives the Yid something in return, so then it's a swap. Then we look at it that you were nene for the chametz, you derived benefit from your chametz by giving the non-Jew the chametz and receiving something in return. In those cases, these poskim rule stringently, and they say, since you were nene from your chametz, since you derived benefit from your chametz by making a swap, you are not allowed to derive benefit from the thing or the money that you received in exchange for your chametz. But when it doesn't happen at the same time, when you give the non-Jew your chametz, and then 2 days later you receive something in exchange, we no longer look at it as being a linked transaction. Now we look at it that the non-Jew took the chametz into his possession, he acquired it, it's his, and this that he gave you 2 days later is a gift, independent of the chametz that you gave him. Ve'enam shayachim klal lechametz. It's no longer connected to the chametz. V'loy mikri chalifav. And we don't consider it to be an exchange for the chametz. Ois Cotton Yud Zayin, the Mechaber had said, the reason why, according to the poskim, that even the one who makes the exchange is allowed to derive benefit from what he receives in exchange for the chametz, the reason they hold that way is because the final words of the Mechaber were, Mipnei shechametz einoi teifes damav, because the iser of chametz does not grab the money that is exchanged for it. What that means is, as we explained previously, that the iser of the chametz does not transfer onto the money that it was exchanged for. So you gave the non-Jew chametz after the zman of iser, so the chametz is aser, you received the money in exchange. We don't say that that money now gets the iser of chametz, the way we would, let's say, by hegdish. By hegdish, if you have something that belongs to the Beis Hamikdash, and then somebody swaps out money for it, so that money gets the kedusha of hegdish. We have that by other things also, but we have that by avodah zarah. If you have something that's an object of avodah zarah, and you take it and you sell it, an avodah zarah object is aser b'hana. You're not allowed to derive any benefit from avodah zarah. But if you take some kind of a statuette or something else that belongs to avodah zarah, and you take it and you sell it, and now you receive money, that money now has the iser of avodah zarah. You're not allowed to benefit from that money. It has the same halachas as the avodah zarah himself. That's called, it's teifes as damav. Avodah zarah is teifes as damav. It grabs onto its money. Whatever money was exchanged for it, the iser transfers onto that money. But by chametz, that's not the din. Chametz einoi teifes damav. Says the Mishnah Berurah, nice cut in Yud Zayin, einoi teifes damav, v'achametz atzmai la'olam aimed be'isurei b'chol makom shehu. However, the chametz itself, let's say you took this 2-pound loaf of rye bread, and you sold the 2-pound loaf of rye bread after the Zman of Isser, and you sold it for $3.50, now, it's true that the $3.50 that you received for the chametz is not teifes as damav. That money doesn't become aser, but the rye bread that you sold to the non-Jew, that rye bread still has all the isurim of chametz la'achar zman ha'isur. That chametz is going to remain aser. Va'aser l'chol adam likach oisai meha'akum, and no yid would be allowed to purchase that bread from the non-Jew, afilu chazar ha'akim v'hechlifai ba'acher. Even if the non-Jew would take it and swap it out for something else, no matter how many generations removed the loaf of bread is going to be, the loaf of bread is always going to be aser b'chamakim shahu. Va'afilu machar ha'yisrael ha'akim achar ha'pesach. Let's say a yid has a 2-pound loaf of rye bread, and chas v'chalila, he holds on to it for the whole Pesach. So he was over by Berurah by Yamatzeh. He held this loaf of rye bread in his possession through Pesach. Now he sells it 2 days after Pesach to a non-Jew. That loaf of bread has the iser of chametz she'avar alav Pesach. The kevin the chachamim itilu iser alav. Since the chachamim made an iser on that bread, the iser of chametz she'avar alav Pesach, which is an iser d'Rabbanan, hareyu kachaticha de isura. It is a piece of isur. It is a prohibited piece, a prohibited item. And that Isser is not going to go off of it. So wherever that loaf of bread is, no Yid is going to be allowed to purchase it and derive benefit from it. Kasav Chayk Yaakov, Dagon Shenis Chametz. Let's say you have grain that fermented. So you have some kernels of wheat that fermented. V'avar alav Pesach v'nizra. And those kernels that fermented and became chametz were held in a Yid's position over Pesach. And now, after Pesach, they take those kernels and plant them. Gidulav mutarin. Whatever grows from those kernels is mutter. The gidulan heavy kechalifin. Because the gidulan, the growth of chametz, has the same din as the chalifin, as something that was swapped out for chametz. So the same way we say that if you take chametz on Pesach and you swap it out for something else, we say einoi teifes as damav, that the chametz prohibition does not transfer to what you received in exchange for the chametz. The same thing is true by gidulin. If you had chametz stick of wheat kernels and you planted it and now something grew, the same way the Isser of chametz does not transfer to something that was exchanged for chametz, the Isser of chametz also does not transfer to what grew from prohibited chametz. However, the Makar Chaim disagrees with this. V'daita, his opinion is, the gidulin gara mechalifin, that what grows from the chametz has a worse din, it has a more stringent din than an exchange. Ulukulei alma aser, and what grows is aser. V'ayim b'tshuvas chasam Seif, Arachaim, Siman Kuf Dalet. Okay, that concludes Siman Tuf Mem Gimel. Now let's go on to Siman Tuf Mem Dalet. Din erev Pesach shechal lihiyos b'Shabbos, the law of erev Pesach that falls out on Shabbos. Uboy ches seifim, and in this siman we have 8 seifim. So here we have erev Pesach falling out on Shabbos. So Yud Daled Nisan, erev Pesach is Shabbos. Sunday is the first day of Yom Tov. The first seder is Motzei Shabbos. Says the Mechaber, Arba Asar shechal lihiyos b'Shabbos. When the 14th of Nisan falls out on Shabbos, Boitkin Leil Shloisha Asar. You're going to do Bedikas Chametz the night going into Shloisha Asar. So in our case, Friday is the 14th of Shabbos is the 14th of Nisan. Friday is the 13th of Nisan. When do you normally do Bedika? Normally you do Bedika Orla Arba Asar. You do it the night after the 13th, going into the 14th. So really, over here you have a case where the 14th is Shabbos, the 13th is Friday. What's the real Zman of Bedikas Chametz? Friday night. But you can't do Bedika on Friday night. Why can't you do Bedika on Friday night? Because we said Bedika has to be done la'ar haner. You have to do Bedikas Chametz with a ner. You can't do Bedikas Chametz with a ner on Friday night because the ner is muktzah and you're not allowed to be metaltal the ner. So how are you going to do Bedikas Chametz? You can't do Bedikas Chametz Friday night. So in such a case, what are you going to do? You're going to have to do Bedika the night before. You're going to have to do it Thursday night, which is the night going into the 13th. Friday is the 13th of Nisan, so you're going to do it Ar L'Shloisha Asar. You're going to do it the evening going into the 13th of Nisan on Thursday night, instead of Ar L'Arba Asar, instead of the night going into the 14th, which would be Friday night. So again, Arba Asar Shechal Liyos b'Shabbos. When the 14th of Nisan falls out on Shabbos, Boitkin Leil Shloisha Asar. You do the Bedika the night of the 13th. Thursday night going into the 13th of Nisan. Umevarim HaKoil Lifnei HaShabbos. And you do Beer Chametz on Friday, on Erev Shabbos. So it's not Erev Pesach, it's Erev Pesach. Shabbos is Erev Pesach. But you're going to do the Beer on Friday, on Erev Shabbos. Umeshayrin Mazayin Shtei Seudais L'tzarech HaShabbos. But you'll hold on to the chametz that you need for your 2 seudais. You need challah for Friday night, and you need challah for Shabbos morning. So you'll hold on to the chametz that you need for the Friday night suda and for the Shabbos morning suda. Now you're all wondering, how about Shudas? What are you going to do about Suda Shlishis? What are you going to do about the chametz for that meal? So the Mechaber explains, the Suda Shlishis, when it comes to Suda Shlishis, Shudas, when are you going to eat that? Zmana achar hamincha. What's the proper time for Suda Shlishis on Shabbos? That's after Mincha Gedola. Suda Shlishis is supposed to be eaten in the afternoon. That's after 6.5 hours in the day. 6.5 hours in the day, chametz is already usher. So you can't hold on to chametz for Suda Shlishis because you're not allowed to eat chametz at that point. So the Suda Shlishis mana achara mincha. The time for Suda Shlishis is after mincha gedola. Va'az eina yachal la'asaisa. You can't make that meal loy b'matzah. You're not going to be able to wash on Pesach tika matzah. V'loy b'chametz. And you're not going to be able to make that meal with chametz. Why? You can't make the meal with chametz because chametz is already usher. Shabbos is erev Pesach. So the chametz is already usher midaraisa by chatzos. Midrabanan, it's usher already 2 hours before. It's usher by achila. So now you're talking after mincha gedola, you can't have Suda Shlishis with chametz, but you also can't make Suda Shlishis with Pesach tika matzah. Because let's remember that there's an Issa D'Rabbanan, any matzah that you're allowed to use to be yotze the mitzvah of achilas matzah by the Seder, you're not allowed to eat on Erev Pesach. And Shabbos is Erev Pesach. So once it's after Mincha Gedola on Shabbos day, on Erev Pesach, you can't make Suda Shlishis with Pesach tika matzah. You also can't make Suda Shlishis with chametz. So what are you going to do? Says the Mechaber. So first of all, the Mechaber said, you're only going to put away chametz for the Friday night Suda and for the Shabbos day Suda. Because those are the only two Sudas that you're going to be able to use chametz for. For Suda Shlishis, you can't use chametz. What are you going to do for Suda Shlishis? Says the Mechaber, Ella b'matzah ashira. The only thing that you could use for your Suda Shlishis on Shabbos is what's called matzah ashira, which literally means rich matzah. What's rich matzah? We call matzah lechem oini. Matzah is a poor man's bread. What is matzah? Flour and water. Nothing else. There's nothing in there to give it any more tam. It's poor man's bread. It's got no rich ingredients in it. It's got no other outside tastes in it. And it's something that takes a long time to digest. It is lechem oini. What's matzah ashira? Matzah ashira is matzah that was not made with water. It was made with mei peros. It was made with fruit juices. So let's say you made matzah with apple juice and no water, only apple juice. So if you made matzah with apple juice, you can't use that to be yotze the mitzvah on Pesach because that's matzah ashira. It doesn't qualify as lechem oini. So the Isser D'Rabbanan of eating matzah on Erev Pesach doesn't apply to matzah ashira. Also, matzah ashira is not chametz, even though the Ramah is about to say that we're noyig not to eat matzah ashira on Pesach because we're afraid that it might be chametz. But me'ikar adin, matzah ashira is not considered chametz. So over here, the Mechaber is telling you the eitzah that you have for Suda Shlishis, which is an eitzah that we do not use, because we don't eat matzah ashira after the Zman of Isser. But according to the Mechaber, the eitzah that you had for Suda Shlishis, where you can't eat chametz because it's after the Zman of Isser, and you can't eat matzah because of the Isser D'Rabbanan, the eitzah would be use matzah ashira. Matzah ashira is not chametz, and matzah ashira you can't use to be yotze the mitzvah. So you can eat matzah ashira on Erev Pesach. V'tzarich la'asoisa kaidem shah asiris. However, the Mechaber says, even according to his shita, that you're allowed to eat matzah ashira on Pesach after the Zman of Isser. On Erev Pesach, you want to eat Suda Shlishis of Shabbos. On Erev Pesach, you're going to have to wash and make this shalashudis before the 10th hour into the day. Because after the 10th hour of the day, there's another D'Rabbanan Dika problem. And that is, when it comes to the Seder night and you're going to eat your matzah shal mitzvah, you're going to eat your matzah to be yotze the mitzvah of achilas matzah, we want you to eat it with teyavon. We want you to eat it with an appetite. So the Chachamim said, you're not allowed to wash and eat pas, or you're not allowed to eat anything, any midi desoid, anything that's satiating, anything that fills you up, you're not allowed to eat after the 10th hour on Erev Pesach, because we want to make sure that you come into the achilas matzah shal mitzvah b'teyavon. And if you're going to eat something that satiates you, you're not going to come to eat that matzah shal mitzvah b'teyavon. So, what did the Mechaber say over here? Just to recapture everything the Mechaber said. The Mechaber said over here, Erev Shabbos, Erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos. You're going to have to do your bedika Thursday night because you can't do your bedika Friday night. You're going to hold on to chametz that you're going to use for your Friday night Suda and for your Shabbos Suda. You're not going to hold on to chametz for shalashudis because you can't eat chametz anymore by shalashudis. Shalashudis, the Zman is after Mincha Gedola, which is already after the Zman Isser of chametz. So you don't have to hold on to chametz for shalosh shudas. What are you going to do for Suda Shlishis? How are you going to be Yotzei Suda Shlishis? So the eighth of the Mechaber is use matzah ashira. Use matzah that was made with mei peiros, because that's not chametz, so you could still eat it after the Zman Isser. It's not something you could use to be Yotzei the mitzvah of achilas matzah, so it's a type of matzah that you're allowed to eat on erev Pesach. That's the Mechaber's eitzah, which I said we're going to see tomorrow in the Ramah. The Ramah says that we're not noyig that way. Now let's take a look in the Mishnah Berurah. Mishnah Berurah is cut in Aleph. The Mechaber said when erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, you're going to do the Bedika Thursday night, Leil Shloisha Asar, the night going into the 13th of Nisan, instead of the night going into the 14th of Nisan. Says the Mishnah Berurah, V'tzarech levarech al habedika. When you make this Bedikas chametz on Thursday night, you're going to make a bracha. Now, this is very, very important to realize. We said earlier in Siman Tov Lamed Vav, we spoke about somebody who's going to be traveling Arla Arba Asar. Let's say somebody's going away for Pesach. He's not going to be home Arla Arba Asar. We said, when should he do Bedika? We said he should do Bedika before. He should do Bedika Arla Shloisha Asar. Or he could do Bedika even earlier, if it's within 30 days of Pesach. But we said, whenever he does that Bedika at night, La'ar Haner, he should not make a bracha. Why shouldn't he make a bracha? Because what's the bracha that you make on Bedika? The bracha you make on Bedika is al biur chametz, on getting rid of the chametz. And we explained, how do you make a bracha of al biur chametz? You don't do biur arla arba asar. When we go to make Bedikas chametz arla arba asar, we're not doing biur. We do biur the next morning. On erev Pesach we do biur. So why do we make a bracha of al biur chametz? And we explained the reason is because when you make the bedika, why are you making the bedika? The bedika is the tchilas habir. The bedika is the beginning of the bir chametz. You're searching for the chametz so that you should find the chametz and get rid of it and destroy it. So on a normal year, the bedika is considered the tchilas habir. You do the bedika at night to find the chametz, get it together, and then very next morning you do the bir. But when you're doing Bedika on Thursday night, when erev Pesach is really, I'm sorry, I lost myself there. So normally when you're doing your Bedika early, let's say in a case where you're going to be traveling Arlar Ba'asar, we said you can't make a bracha. Why can't you make a bracha? Very simple. If you're doing the Bedika, let's say 3 days early, because you're going traveling, you're not doing the beer for another 3 days. You're not doing the beer until erev Pesach. Erev Pesach might be 3, 4, 5 days later. So how could you make a bracha al bir chametz when you do the bedika? That's why in Siman Tov Lamed Vav we said somebody who's traveling who does the bedika on an earlier night doesn't make a bracha because it doesn't pass for him to make a bracha of al bir chametz. But in our case over here, when you're doing the bedika Thursday night because erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, when are you going to do the beer? You're going to do the beer erev Shabbos. You're doing the beer Friday morning. So you're doing the bedika Thursday night, and you're doing the bedika the very next morning. Even though the very next morning is not erev Pesach, but still you're doing the beer the very next morning, because you can't do it on Shabbos. In that case, it does pass to make a bracha of al bir chametz. That's why the Mishnah Berurah says over here, a nice cut in Aleph, V'tzarech levarech ala bedika. In this case, even though you're doing the bedika early, even though you're doing the bedika Thursday night, which is arla shloisha asar, and not arla arba asar, still you're going to make a bracha of al bir chametz. V'gam levatel. Also, when you do this bedika, you're going to do bittul chametz. You're going to say kol chamira v'chamia the same way you do every year by bedikas chametz. Just like you do every year on the night of the 14th. Ice cut and bays, leil shloisha asa. You're going to do the bedika the night going into the 13th. Shalamachar be'erev Shabbos ef shalivdoik. Because tomorrow on erev Shabbos, which is tomorrow on Friday, where really you should be doing the bedika Friday night, you can't do the bedika Friday night. Dain bait gidla arakama. When do you want to do the bedika? On Friday? You can't do the bedika on Friday because then you're not doing it lar aner. Then you're doing it larachama, to the light of the sun, which we said doesn't fulfill the rabbinic requirement of bedikas chametz. When else are you going to do it? Friday night? Can't do it Friday night, then there is muktzah. Ice cut and gimel, umashayrin. After you do the Bedika Thursday night, the Mechaber said you'll leave over the chametz that you need for your Friday night Suda and the Shabbos Suda. Says the Chavetz Chaim, V'tzarech lizaher lahanichai b'makom mutzna. But realize that when you save this chametz for the Friday night meal and the Shabbos day meal, you got to make sure to keep it in a safe place so it doesn't get scattered around the house and you don't got to do Bedika all over again. Siman Taf Lamed Daled Sif Aleph, like we said previously in Siman Taf Lamed Daled Sif Aleph. You'll put away, you'll hold back some chametz that you need for Shabbos. Says the Chavetz Chaim, when erev Pesach falls out on Shabbos, you should daven Shabbos morning early, and you should not put up a slow bal tefillah. Don't drag out the davening Shabbos morning. Why? Because we want you to have plenty of time for your Suda when you come home. We don't want that you put away challah to eat for the Shabbos day Suda. Now you're going to go to davening Shabbos morning. You're going to daven in a 9 o'clock minyan. They're going to put up a long chazan, and you're going to listen to the chazan for a few hours. And then you're going to come home, and it's going to be the Zman Isser, and you're going to eat your challah chas v'chalila that you put away for the Suda. So says the Chavetz Chaim, daven early, and don't drag out davening. Ois cut hay. The Mechaber said you don't put away chametz for Suda Shlishis, because Suda Shlishis, you can't eat chametz by Suda Shlishis. The Zman of Suda Shlishis is after Mincha Gedolah. That's already after the Zman of Isser. Not only can't you use chametz, but you can't use matzah either, because of the Isser D'Rabbanan that you're not allowed to eat matzah that you could be used to be yotzei the mitzvah on erev Pesach. Says the Mishnah Berurah loy b'matzah is cutting hay to ha'asa lecha matzah b'erev Pesach. You're not allowed to eat matzah that you could use to be yotzei the mitzvah of achilas matzah. That kind of matzah you're not allowed to eat in erev Pesach. We could like amon b'simin tafayin aleph siv beis. So the Mechaber said, what's the eitzah? The eitzah, according to the Mechaber, for Suda Shlishis, is to eat matzah ashira. Ois cut involved. What's matzah ashira? Hainu shenilusha b'mei peres levad. That means a type of matzah that was used, it was kneaded using only fruit juices, no water. According to the Mechaber, that's not chametz, so you're allowed to eat it after the Zman of Isser, and you're allowed to eat it on erev Pesach because you can't be yotzei the mitzvah of achilas matzah with matzah ashira. Then the last thing that the Mechaber pointed out over here on the bottom of Yud Ches Amud Aleph was that you're going to have to eat your Suda Shlishis v'tzarek la'asoisa koydem shah asiris. You're going to have to eat your Suda Shlishis before the 10th hour of the day. Says the Chavetz Chaim, is cutting zayin koydem shah asiris to be sham ve'elech, because after the 10th hour on erev Pesach, afilu matzah ashira also lechel. You're not even allowed to eat matzah ashira. Why? Nothing to do with chametz. Kedei sheyochel matzah l'teyovim. Because the problem is that after the 10th hour into the day on erev Pesach, the Chachamim said you're not allowed to eat anything that fills you up, anything that satiates you, because we want to make sure that you eat the matzah shel mitzvah l'teyavain with an appetite. Ukidol kaman b'simin taf ayin aleph sif beis. And we will continue Mirz Hashem with the Ramah tomorrow. So this concludes today's shir. Thank you for listening.